From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Welcome. Thank you for sticking around for our post-concert nightcap conversation. Unfortunately, there is no festive beverage to accompany that, but we'll do the best we can to get out of here soon so we can get that. So very thankful to all of you for joining us this evening. It was really a spectacular concert, and thank you to the musicians for being phenomenal, of course. Feel free to clap. Thank you. So if you all wouldn't mind introducing yourselves and maybe give a bit about your background and what your main jobs are these days, whether some of you work for orchestras or doing chamber music more, or teaching, or just touring as soloists.
Start with me?
Sure.
Hi, my name's Lydia Brown. I'm a pianist, and I do a lot of work with singers in any capacity that I can do it. I work at the Metropolitan Opera and San Francisco Opera, and I've recently joined the staff of the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, where I coach singers all day long. And I've always been happiest when they were around. So I'm glad to have been overseeing the vocal program at Marlboro for the last 10 years. And that was actually really one of the greatest gifts that was ever given to me, was the chance to be able to work with singers, the young singers, 7 weeks every summer, and we do, this kind of repertoire, and then also vocal ensemble with only piano, and to me, it's like my greatest joy. So.
I'm Beca Albers. My main job, I guess, is I'm the assistant principal violist of the Minnesota Orchestra. I also play a lot of chamber music in and around Minnesota, and I guess around the rest of the country, and then I also teach actually at Macalester College in St. Paul, and also down at the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings at Mercer University in Georgia. So I go down there 3 times a month, usually. I'm going in a couple of days in the middle of the tour. But it's nice to have a lot of variety in what I'm doing.
Hello? Okay. My name is Alice Hugh. I'm originally from Montana, and I was living in New York until this past year, where I moved to Denver, Colorado, and I've been playing with the Colorado Symphony for the last, 4-5 months, and fairly new there, so I really love it there and very happy.
Carmit, Zori. I'm originally from Tel Aviv, and I play chamber music for a living, and I teach at Rutgers University part-time, and also at Purchase College. That's it.
I'm Michelle Ross. I live in New York. I was born in California. And I guess I do a little bit of everything these days. Lots of chamber music and some solo and sometimes some guest concertmaster work, which is really fun. And I also compose.
I'm Phan, and I just travel around being a guest soloist mostly, with various orchestras, opera companies, microphones. Yeah, and that's what I do.
Cool. And I'm Nick Brown. I'm the concert producer of this evening's concert. Work with some great colleagues in the concert office here. Apologies for not introducing myself at the beginning. Just a reminder that we are being filmed for this conversation so that you can tell all your friends and send them a link later on that you heard some great insights from the musicians this evening. So the first thing I'd love for us to talk about is the Marlboro process. From putting concerts and repertoire together in the summer, where you come from all over the country or all over the world into that setting, and then you bring things back on tour. So what is that experience like for you all, with a big gap in between?
The gap? What do you mean by that?
As in, so was this program originally performed this past summer?
Portion of the program was
Okay,
performed.
cool. So what's the process, what's the experience for you to put it together in the summer and then come back together after maybe not seeing each other since that summer season?
Well, we are all sensitive musicians, and we like to work hard. And what we do in the summer, it's like an orgy of chamber music. And so when we are actually meeting, it's like meeting old friends, and it's like a big party of hard work. And it's incredibly rewarding. So yeah, that's what it's like. It's very nice.
I am in the unique position of joining this group because when they performed this 3 summers ago, it was with a different tenor who was not actually able to do the tour in the end. So I, as a former alum, they called me next. And I've performed this piece, the Vaughan Williams in particular, many times. And what was so nice about coming together this week was it's generally hard to find that sort of group sound somehow. And jumping into this, they all had that already. So all I had to do was just sort of dive in. And it's been a really luxurious experience to be working with these lovely ladies this past week.
Great.
Beautiful.
It's worth mentioning that the piece that this tour was arranged around was the Vaughan Williams, and so everything else on the program is new to us as an ensemble.
And where has this tour taken you, and where will you go next together?
We started in Boston at the Gardner Museum, and then we were at Weill at Carnegie on Monday. Tomorrow we're in Philadelphia, and then we're in Greenwich, Connecticut on Sunday.
What do you think about your sort of unique set of professional experiences as individuals? You come from different backgrounds, right? You do a lot of different things in different combinations, and some of that is similar between each of you. What do you bring to the table when you meet together? So does one of you, who's more of an orchestral player, have a certain personality versus Nick is the touring tenor? It might have a different personality, I don't know.
Be nice.
Or does that not matter? Which is
I don't know.
totally
I mean,
good answer.
I think, we all, what binds us and bonds us is the music. And so somehow I think in a way our outside experiences, in a way I think they just inform who we are as people and who we are as musicians. And when we're all in the room together, I think it's just, we're just dealing with the notes and the feelings between the notes. And I think somehow, I don't know, it kind of simplifies things, It's kind of the rest, at least for me, kind of falls away, and it's just 5 of us and, 6 of us. And we're just there trying to kind of unearth some answers. And so I don't know, I guess for me personally, I feel a little bit less kind of overwhelmed by the outside feelings and more just about, this is what we're here to do, and let's find it together.
Very cool.
What's so amazing about Marlboro is that everyone is at a different point in their life, their age, their career, wherever they are professionally, all around the world. But the thing that matters is what kind of musicianship you bring. And I actually think it's kind of the other way around. It's like that's the standard for us, is playing chamber music with each other. So whether or not in our real lives we're, outside of the Marlboro oasis, we're in an orchestra or teaching, it's the musicianship that you're bringing to every single one of those situations. So all of your experiences and the composite experiences is amazing because because of everyone's, the variety of personality and perspective, regardless, is going to bring something to the table. But I think what's so amazing about Marlboro and what it inspires is this absolute focus on what's important about making music. So being able to do the tour in the middle of the year is that, for me, it's just this gift of a reminder of what it's like to be so inspired and challenged by your colleagues and by the composers and the works, and to have this almost impossible task of, bringing what as much as we can to each other and to the music and to the performers. So it's a gift to be able to do that in this little mini way.
I think, to add to this is, I think we all respect each other. And it's, the rehearsal period is, and concerts from one to another is like an intellectual and emotional feast, you know. That's what's so, it's just lovely.
That's great. It's really lovely to hear. The last question that I'm going to ask before we turn it over to audience Q&A is about the vocal chamber music repertoire. So we had the Vaughan Williams, which is just spectacular, and also the Beethoven, which is probably something that few of us have ever heard before, but is really exciting to hear. How do you approach the chamber ensemble plus voice repertoire differently than non-voice repertoire or non-vocal repertoire?
I mean, I can start this. I'm sure Nick has a lot to say too. But I think I've personally always feel like the pianist and the singer are kind of the core, even within vocal chamber music. And so I always, oftentimes at Marlboro, I'll rehearse with the singer just with piano. Depends on the piece, but I mean, I think in a way if the singer feels like they have that as a place where they can always, you know, be at one with that instrument, so it kind of keeps the song aspect of it kind of central. And then I think after that, you know, it's kind of trying to find the reasons that the instruments exist based on the text, and then everything goes around that. But I just feel from my own experience that if you start from that singer piano kind of core, it helps.
I think having the text is maybe the biggest difference, because it brings just a completely, I mean, for us it's sort of a foreign element, and just thinking about how the text relates to every little gesture and line, it's a different starting point. I think ultimately a different result.
Yeah, the text, music is such an abstract thing by itself. You know, it's an abstract way of expressing an abstract emotion. And maybe a composer, most likely a composer has something specific in mind, but you know, it's left to us to sort of infer and guess and, you know, if we're lucky, read a book about it or something, if that exists. But the text makes the abstract concrete. And that is a huge difference, I find. I think the other challenge, the biggest challenge with it is that it's hard to find singers who can feel comfortable in that setting, because we start late, you know, we have to wait for our bodies to finish changing. And so a lot of singers come to music very late, when all of these guys have been doing it since they were 4. And most singers probably don't start until they're 16, 17, 18, sometimes even later. And it creates a different kind of relationship with music for most singers, I think. And then there are a few of us, like me, where I actually started like these guys when I was 4, and I tried really poorly to play their instruments. So for me, doing the vocal chamber music actually is a real big passion for me, because it allows me to reconnect with what kind of made me fall in love with music in the first place as a kid. I mean, I used to love reading Haydn string quartets and whatever, and it probably sounded absolutely horrifying, but it was fun. And that's kind of why I wanted to be a musician. So these moments are really luxurious for me personally, because it's like, I can stop being a singer and just kind of be one of the gang. It's fun.
One more thing that happens when we play with singer, or probably woodwinds also, any kind of thing that are different from us, is that we have to learn how to adjust the kind of sound we do, and make sure that his words, or her, whoever is singing with us, come, and it's a different technique for us. It's wonderful.
Great. A slight follow-up question. So when you have a piece like the Vaughan Williams, do you let Nick present an interpretation of the text, and then you kind of respect that? Do you work collaboratively? Do you all do close readings of the text, or is it just an organic thing that happens in rehearsals?
Chamber music. Chamber music.
We had a lot of discussions. And actually it was so nice to have the time this week to have those discussions. It's kind of the Marlboro way. We have to ask a lot of questions, and it's great.
Awesome. Great, so we'll open the floor up to all of you. If you could just raise your hand, and my colleague Solomon will bring over a microphone. And we'll try and get a few of these in tonight before we go home.
Great. Okay, thank you. Well, first let me say I enjoyed the whole concert, and I certainly enjoyed the instrumental parts tremendously. Razumovsky was great, and Haydn was great. But I would really like it if you'd expand a little bit more on Nicholas Brown's question about the vocal parts. First of all, have either the Beethoven or the Vaughan Williams been recorded very much before? How well known are these? They're not well known to me. I remember that last year, or the year before, you had a program here at the library that featured the George Thompson works that Haydn did the instrumental music for. That was a really great program. I don't remember from that Thompson had written anything, or had asked anybody else, but apparently he asked a lot of other people to help him out, and Beethoven was one of those. So how well known is this? Has this been widely recorded, either the Beethoven leader, or for that matter, the Vaughan Williams? Is that widely recorded?
The Vaughan Williams is an extraordinarily popular piece in the UK, and there are a ton of recordings. If you search on Spotify, you'll probably find at least 5. The Beethoven is less recorded, but there is a complete recording on DG with Malcolm Martineau and a bunch of British singers and two beautiful players. So the recordings do exist. It's not quite as widely known, and I mean, I think we focus on other things by Beethoven, like the Ninth Symphony, or other things of that ilk. Yeah, exactly. So I just think that's why it's not as known. His other works sort of overshadow. They cast a giant shadow, and you have to be really interested in Beethoven to kind of.
So when you put together a program like this, general chamber music audience, you can be pretty sure that if it includes vocal music like this, that it'll be well received, the people are going to like it, and so forth.
We hope so. I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate this conversation, but my take on, I founded an organization in Chicago called Collaborative Arts Institute of Chicago, and the mission of the organization is to promote vocal chamber music and art song, because that is like the dustiest corner of the classical music world. And this particular music, I think, is kind of losing its audience because of just, the way technology and the way we relate to music and listen to music and discover music has changed. Because, as we were saying before with the texts, so much of vocal music really relies on what is the singer saying. Otherwise, it just sounds like a singer is shouting at you in some language for 20 minutes, and you're like, why? And so it kind of puts a barrier, but back in the time of recordings, when we actually listened to physical copies of things, you had liner notes and you had text and translations, and those things were like available without even thinking, because it was all just one thing. You didn't have to do the extra Google search or whatever. And so what I'm finding in my experience over the last decade, since I was at Marlboro, has been that the audiences that love this repertoire are the chamber music audiences, because you guys are so knowledgeable about every corner of classical music. And because there's just not so many platforms for us to perform this kind of music, these audiences, respond because you think, oh gosh, right, that's nice. I haven't heard that in a long time. And so actually I found that in general, when trying to promote the repertoire in general, the first place one should turn is a chamber music audience, because it's such a welcome respite, on a program that's 2 hours with just instrumental music.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the back here?
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful performance. I have a question for the singer. Is there a particular reason that you have decided to choose English, sing in English rather than German? And if you have had a chance to sing in German, what would be the difference as a singer?
So just today, this program, which was developed by Marlboro, just happened to be English. I would have happily sung in German. The Beethoven songs were intended to be sung in English. He set them for the English words, so that's why we were in English today. If I were singing in German, it would just be a little extra work for me before I walk on stage. That's the only thing I would do really differently. It's also sometimes with German, I find that there's just, because it's not my native language and it's not your native language or most of the people in the audience, you have to kind of do just a little extra work to be extra specific. You know, English affords you the opportunity to paint with some broader strokes sometimes, because you know that the audience will, hopefully, if I'm singing properly, understand what's happening more easily. So that's basically, it just requires a little bit extra homework and a little bit of extra practice.
Any other questions? Yes, Michael.
Thank you. Michael from the Freer Sackler. And it's wonderful to see Marlboro here, away from the usual Washington home. We're very grateful to the library for hosting while our auditorium is closed. I have a a singer's question. I sing in a church choir, and listening to the Vaughan Williams, of course, as an amateur singer, we do not like singing the E vowel very much, especially if it's high or loud. And listening to Vaughan Williams, I think I only heard one extended E sound. All the rest were ah, ah, ooh, ah. Beautiful sounds to sing. So did Vaughan Williams go out of his way, as far as you know, or do really good composers writing in English go out of their way to avoid forcing a singer to sing the E vowel loud or long?
I think just we lucked out this time because of Hausmann's poetry. There's not a lot of spaces or words that involved E on a stressed syllable that Vaughan Williams would have wanted to emphasize. So I think it's mostly luck of the draw on this one. Yes. Unfortunately, sometimes professional singers also do not always like doing that, and we are still required to sing E for long periods of time on high notes. We just pray that it sounds beautiful.
Can I ask one more question just about that? If I were to listen to an English tenor, or an Irish or Scottish tenor, and an English or a UK quartet, would the pronunciation in non-American dialect, let's say, be very different, and then would it affect how the string players and piano accompany?
From my perspective, I really try and go for a British accent in these particular songs, and I mean, I'm an American, so I'm doing my best Meryl Streep. You know, she's a master of accents. So I'm just, that's what I'm basically doing. You might hear, obviously, more British things. British singers tend to approach certain vowels in a much darker fashion than American singers do, because the vowels are just darker in their accent. And but as for how that affects you guys, I can't really say.
Well, if anything was going to be extremely delicate, we would have to talk about it. How was it? True.
So probably a little bit, but I mean, I really feel like this music sounds a little funny if you just go for a completely American accent. So I aim for like at least mid-Atlantic to Meryl Streep.
Okay, I'm going to close it out with one last question, but before I do that, I just want to reiterate what Michael said. Michael Wilpers is our colleague over at the Freer Sackler Galleries, and he's the head of music programming and performing arts programming there. He's been such a treat to work with last season and this season, as well as the library has co-presented the musicians from Marlboro concerts, at least several of them, while their hall is being renovated. So thank you to the Freer and Sackler Galleries for working with us on this project. It's been such a treat to have the Marlboro organization in our hall for a change, and I know it's happened in the past before, and we hope that we'll continue to collaborate like this. And there's all kinds of information in your program about the Freer Sackler Galleries information about when you can get back into their spaces and that kind of business, check out their website and also check out their social media presence, which is really exciting. They have some really phenomenal things going on Instagram, I believe. So anyway, there's that. We also have one more performance by oh, yes, Michael.
Will this performance be on your radio program?
Hopefully, yep. So our latest radio series just concluded, and we're discussing with Wida to figure out what's next. One thing that we do hope with this concert is that at least a portion of it will go up online as a webcast. You can see one of the Marlboro concerts from last season on our website, lsc.gov/webcasts. And you can also see and hear Nick's recital from last season when he was here performing Britten and Schumann and Bowles and Rorem. That's a really great concert, so you can hear him doing some different repertoire. And so Marlboro is going to be here again in March, so check out our website for information about that. If you don't have a ticket, sign up for the ticket alert or just come to the door. As you see, there are always empty seats because people do not show up. They are not committed to their ticket orders for some reason, but we don't want you to be discouraged by sold out notices, so always come on down. So the last question, and I'll say it's for the ladies since Nick got to talk about singing. My question is, on your tours, maybe specific to Marlboro or just your own experiences, what is your process of adapting to the concert halls? So for example, on this tour you've been in the Gardner Museum's hall, which is that vertical box thing, which is really funky and cool. If anyone hasn't seen it, go see it, it's really cool. And then Weil, and now our hall here, and you've got other exciting venues coming up too.
Well, I think, as a pianist, we have been raised to do this our whole lives. It's actually part of the job. So, I think it's always a challenge. I actually enjoy the challenge of trying to kind of be able to make any instrument in front of you sound beautiful and never to make any excuses about it. So, I don't know, that's my own personal kind of love and challenge of it, is kind of to try to find the instrument and find the places that the way that it sings. You try to find the soul of the instrument. And you have usually a little bit of time to do that. And then I think once you find that, I think it's easy to find, I think any musician has to find that sound within themselves. And then I think once you have that, then you can kind of fit your sound around your players. And so I think that's always, I start with myself and the piano sound first, and then I think then I feel like I can open up. But I think if I didn't do if I didn't have that first, it would be harder for me.
We do have to say that tonight was really being spoiled. Tonight was being spoiled.
Thank you.
This is a hall that loves our instruments.
Yeah.
So, and compliments, the audience make us feel good too. Somehow when we played, we felt something in the air, and that makes for always alleviating a wonderful rapport in playing.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that on your behalf.
I think it's funny because no matter how many halls you go to or rooms or galleries or whatever you're playing in, every sound check there's going to be a moment where you have this, like, if you feel like you don't have control because it's different. And I always try and remember that as soon as there are bodies in the space, 99% of the time it feels perfect. And tonight was so special because the hall was amazing when we got here, and we just played in Carnegie on Monday, so.
Take that, New York.
Yeah. So we're coming from a really beautiful experience, and there was something so special about also what Carmit was talking about in terms of the history of this hall, and she mentioned the Budapest Quartet right before we played the concert, and I was so moved just thinking about that, and not consciously while I'm playing, but it was just feeling so, I think in a way touring is so special because you don't have much time in all these places, but you're so concentrated and you bring so much of yourself that you end up getting so much back. And I thought it was so special tonight to feel the space change with the audience and know what amazing legacy we're tradition we're so honored to be a part of. So that was, and I think if you can bring that mindset to any hall and just kind of trust that it's part of your instrument in a way, so then it sort of alleviates all the stress.
For me, wherever I go, I try to make it a challenge of being really present and aware. So in not a hall like this, maybe it's not an ideal space, then instead of focusing on what you wish it could be or where you're trying to make something happen, that you just sort of try and make yourself really present for where you are. And then somehow that really helps me accept where I'm playing and what my colleagues are doing around me and what's coming back towards me. So even if you're playing Carnegie or in such a gorgeous hall like this or in a concrete box, the experience where you're sitting, it'll still be a special one because you're present, if that makes sense.
I don't really have anything to add. I agree. I think it's always interesting to listen, to try to listen kind of from the outside when you're in a new space, because what's happening right here is always a different experience than if you're listening to how your sound is coming back. I really enjoy actually playing in different halls because it's interesting and it's kind of a fun challenge for your ears and for physicality of playing.
Did you want to chime in, Nick? No? Oh, okay. Great. Well, thank you all for spending some time with us after the concert. I know it's exhausting to do that and then have to come out and do more for the audience, but I think they really appreciate it, we really appreciate it, and the viewers online will definitely appreciate it as well. And just since you mentioned the Budapest Quartet's experience here, being a library and an archive, we do happen to have the Budapest Quartet's archive. So we have all of their scores and their parts and their markings. So out there in YouTube land, if you're hearing this, you can come copy their markings. Check out our website, loc.gov, and you can search for Budapest Quartet. You'll find recordings, all kinds of other archival materials, and then there's a special collection of theirs in the music division. If you're having any trouble finding out how to access that, just click on the Ask a Librarian link anywhere on the website, and you can send a direct question to our music reference librarians, and they will help you out. They're a really fantastic bunch, and we're the biggest music library in the world, so how about that? So thank you again for being here. Thank you again for being here, and we'll look forward to all reconvening sometime in the future to hear you all play some more and sing some more. And without further ado, off to dinner or drinks or bed. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.